Welcome to video 1. Now in this series of videos I'm talking about the keys, the 7 keys to developing your business plan. This is key number 1, and the first key is commercial viability. I mean, just how commercially viable is your product, your service, or your business? This is a big question I always ask all my clients when I coach with them or consult with them. Have you tested the market to see if you actually have a commercially viable product or service? And if not, why not, right? Because here's what tends to happen. As small business owners and entrepreneurs, we tend to be overly optimistic and we tend to be creators. So what happens is we come up with good ideas, and a lot of us have got the good idea of the day plan pretty much, right? Some of the entrepreneurs and small business owners that I've met and worked with over the years, every time I talk to them, they've got a new idea. And in many ways, I'm similar, right? But the problem is most of these good ideas in our minds aren't necessarily commercially viable. There's not necessarily a marketplace out there that will pay money for your product or service idea or business idea. And the very first thing that you need to get right is testing the market to ensure that there is actually a commercial viable proposition with your product or service. Now, I can't tell you the number of times over 8 years my telephone has rung or I've received an email with an excited business owner who's come up with this amazing product that's going to change the world and everybody in the world is going to need this, and can I help them market it? And so I always say the same thing to them. That sounds fantastic. What have you done to test that the market actually wants this product or service? And in most cases, I hit a brick wall with people, with business owners, because they want to believe so much in their product or service that they don't want to go through the pain necessarily of testing if their assumptions about their product or service are correct. I had a good business colleague of mine who came to me with a proposition for a business that he was going to create, where there was, he clearly identified a market that was underserviced, and he'd come up with this business plan and had all these assumptions about what was going to happen because this marketplace that he identified, this niche market, was underserviced. And he thought in his mind that he had a product or service that they all would want and that they would come flooding in. And not only would they come flooding into this business, but he would attract the attention of big time advertisers who wanted to reach that audience. And he had all these assumptions, and he wanted me to be involved to help him market it. And I said to him, it sounds fantastic. What have you done to test the market to make sure that it's a commercially viable prospect or proposition? To which he replied, well, I think I'll just build it and they'll come, I'm confident. I said fine, and we parted ways. Now, I don't need to tell you the outcome of that story in terms of how successful it was. It just wasn't commercially viable, and there was no marketing, no market validation of the idea. You've got to have a commercially viable business, product or service in this marketplace today. Without it, you're kidding yourself, really. And I remember back when I started my very first business, it was in the life coaching space. I'd done a course on life coaching. I was fired up. I believed that everybody in the world needed life coaching, which I still believe to this day, right? We could all use a bit of a fine tuning and ramping our lives up to another level. And I believed that everybody in the world needed life coaching, and I was fired up, man. But by month 3, I realized one very important thing. Whilst everybody in the world needed life coaching, virtually nobody wanted it. Right? So it just wasn't commercially viable to go out and market life coaching directly. Now, I'm not saying that life coaching business is not a good business to be in. It is, of course, if you understand how to turn it into a commercially viable business model, and how to really identify where the market is and position yourself correctly in the market, it can be commercially viable. But in just a broad approach to a business like coaching, you are going to fail every day of the week if you go out and market yourself as a life coach, right? And we offer life coaching for all things for all people. It's just not going to work. You're far better off, if you want to become commercially viable, far better off developing a specialized area for a niche market and positioning yourself as the expert or specialist in that market, and you'll be far more attractive, right? So you've got to get something that's commercially viable And when you've got let's just backtrack. If you have a business right now and you didn't get the sort of results that you're looking for last year, and you want to make sure you get better results this year, a couple of things. You've got to be really honest with yourself. Did you really put the effort in to market your product or service last year? Did you have a well thought out marketing plan? And if you can say yes to that, but you still didn't get the results you're looking for, then you have to come back and say, well, is it commercially viable? I mean, do people in the marketplace generally want to pay money for this product or service? And you need to go out and test that. Now, there's all sorts of different ways to test the commercial viability of your business. But if you've been in business for a while and it's just not bringing in revenue, and you're convinced that you've done everything you can from a marketing sense, I suspect you probably haven't, but if you are convinced you've done everything from a marketing sense you could do, and it's not working, you have to sit down and really question the commercial viability of either the business that you're in, the product or service, or the way you've positioned the product or service, or the actual approach that you've taken to marketing. If it's not commercially viable, it doesn't matter how smart you are, or even how good your marketing is, you're not going to get very far with a product or service that the marketplace does not want to pay money for. So make sure your business, product or service is commercially viable. So I hope you've enjoyed this key and you've got some ideas out of this. In our next key, we're going to talk about what I think is one of the greatest challenges for small business owners today and what you can do about it. Now, before you go, make sure you drop by www.profitminute.com, request the free marketing plan and the Fast Start Marketing CDs if you haven't done so already. And I'll see you in video 2 for what I think is the biggest challenge you're going to face as a small business owner today and in the future. See you there.